Keep it down, John.
Do you want to start us off? You want to?
Oh. Well, hey, we're back. Get the Backstairs podcast. How you guys doing?
I'm John.
That's John over there.
Good.
Yes.
I'm good.
Good. That's Aaron. Aaron's over here to my left. He's
Yeah.
doing good too.
Scott, you're back.
I'm back.
Like Voldemort, you're back.
Yes. You can't get rid of me that easy. Sorry. It's a nice try, though.
How are the ice capades?
The Ice Capades. I did not go to the Ice Capades. I went to Gardens Aglow.
Gardens Aglow.
That's not what Janelle told us.
Well, you know.
Okay.
It might have been the Ice Capades.
Yeah,
But
what is the Ice Capades?
I don't know what the Ice Capades
What
are.
is
I
the
didn't go
Garden
there.
of
I mean,
Glow?
Garden of Eden.
Christmas lights at the Botanical Gardens in Booth Bay. It was very
Oh.
lovely. We took the kids, the grandkids. It was
Oh,
a lovely family holiday event.
yeah.
Wonderful. That's
And-
really cool.
And now I'm back.
Even the baby?
the
The baby
podcast.
even went?
No, that was the only one that stayed home. The other
Gotcha.
five
I've heard that
grandchildren.
you can't bring babies to the ice capades. So
You can. But, I mean, you ever put ice skates on a baby, man?
You ice skate around?
Oh, sure.
Oh, really? You,
I think we need to do an advertisement for the Garden of Glow later.
I guess so.
Garden aglow, not
Oh,
of glow.
That makes so much more sense.
Aglow. They're aglow.
Did you have a good week?
The
Well,
hills are alive. You know, the gardens are aglow.
Yeah, I had a good week.
You had a good week?
Yeah.
Anything new?
No.
Pretty much the same old
that's
thing.
good.
Same week.
Okay.
Yeah,
Scott?
that's okay.
Scott?
Yeah.
New?
Yeah.
Anything new?
No. Life is
Nothing
Moving
new.
on.
I guess
I also had nothing new happen.
No, you had nothing new
Nothing
happen?
new.
great.
Yeah.
Yes, this is a great
Wow.
podcast.
This is what you signed up for, people. Epic banter.
We're here to talk about our mundane lives.
I have something exciting though.
okay.
Oh,
Hit
there
me.
was excitement.
We are now in season 2.
This is
right?
season
That's-
2.
This is what we've been doing. I
We're
think.
getting strong. Season 2.
Yeah, we're pushing it to the limits. We've
Yeah.
had some interesting people, beautifully talented people.
Sure.
Did you remember the goals that we had set for this second season? Remember when we were talking about second season? We're like, all right, we have these goals.
No.
We threw it in the closet. No.
Doesn't ring a bell.
Oh, well, I figured I would bring them back out just to remind us of what our goals were.
That's a good idea,
Oh,
John.
so,
that's-
okay.
I mean,
Yeah,
because
I'm glad.
our attention
I
span
have
is
some
limited.
goals here.
Oh my gosh.
Backstairs podcast, season 2 goals. Aaron, you want to rip one off?
Can I rip
One?
any of them?
No,
Or just
rip-
rip.
start with one.
Start
Yeah,
with one.
What does it say?
Have a season 1. All right, always
Nailed
a
it.
good goal when having a season 2. You want a season 1.
Nailed it.
Is this like one of those things where when you make a list, you start off with make a list and then you can check that off right off the
I
bat?
don't know. These were
Hey.
our goals that we set together, Aaron.
Oh, okay.
It's
Sorry.
all
Yeah,
about
let's do
the
the next one.
feelings
All
of accomplishment. Number 2.
Don't-
Not totally hate our own voices.
it-
Have we come to that point yet? Do you hate your own voice still?
I love my dulcet tones.
everybody does. Everybody.
It's a voice for the ice capades, that's for sure. You want to rip 3?
All right, here we go. 3 is
Get a table. We got a table.
We got a table.
We did it.
I like to tell a story about this table.
Let's tell.
Please do.
I got it at Goodwill. And it was not this pretty. I had to finish it. And
Oh, nice.
it came with 5 leaves. This thing can hold 5 leaves. It gets like huge.
Wow.
And they wanted like $80 for it. And I was just like, I'm gonna take a charity and try to get as much as I can think of.
So you could pay $80
you raise money
for this
to
thing.
help people that need help. Let's lowball them.
Anyways, I got
Walked
it
out of there.
I got it for $30.
Hey,
$30.
And now,
Jeez.
goal 3 accomplished. All right, let's do 4.
4.
Video ourselves, and we're doing it. Look,
We
you
are
can
doing
see
it.
us. You can see our epic
Oh, over there.
goal list.
I feel like you kind of never mind.
No, we
Well,
set this list.
Okay.
It's all about accomplishing.
Not totally hate ourselves on video. Where are we? What do you think it's
No,
got?
well, the first promo that came out today, I'm glad we have a table now.
Why?
You didn't like how you looked lounging in a chair?
It's the It's the table. The table kind of hides my big belly.
All right, here's 6.
All right, 6. Get a rich benefactor. How are we doing on that, guys?
Well,
Do we have a rich benefactor?
I'm working on it.
Well, Scott, you just got to get more promotions.
I know Scott just got a promotion, so I think we got that.
Yeah.
I think
Congratulations.
6.
All right.
I wouldn't say I'm rich, but
You bought all this stuff. I don't.
Here's some awesome theater stories. We're doing pretty well on that so far.
Yeah,
We've
I
heard
think
some
we're
pretty
doing
awesome
good. I think
stories.
we've got some awesomer stories coming.
Oh, okay. Well, that was in the goal yet, but maybe we have 3 more.
All right. Number 8 is
Prove that we are more than just Scott. And we did it. Last week, we proved that we don't need you.
You don't need me.
We don't.
we want you.
I know.
That's
And that's what it's up. That's what it's all about. I want to feel wanted.
You're not needed, but you're wanted. No.
That's what else could I ask for?
All right. Number 9.
I thought that said provolone for a second.
Get a correspondent. And we did it.
We have a
We
correspondent.
have letters from Sally. And
Yes.
yeah, that was great last week. Can't wait for this. Hopefully,
Can't
we
wait
have
to
a
hear
letter
it.
in the backs.
All right.
And then 10.
10. Last
Number 10.
goal that we ever had in our lives.
All right.
Have Mandy Huotari as a guest.
Well, guys, we're not doing so well on goal 10. We have
We-
yet to. It hasn't happened.
Well, guess what?
What? Do we have cameras so
Guess
people can
what?
see who we have?
Look, if you will look over here, you will see Mandy Huotari is our guest today.
What?
All right.
On the episode of
All right.
Backstairs Podcast, let's hear it for Mandy Huotari.
I think what's more important is that we hit all 10 goals. But, Mandy, welcome.
Either way.
Oh my gosh, congratulations on the table.
Thank you.
And if you know any rich benefactors that are like, send them our way.
Maybe we will just leave our ringers on.
Hey.
Oh,
Yeah.
ooh, good idea.
Yeah.
Good idea.
Maybe somebody will randomly call us and be like, I have a bunch of
I
money.
heard you were looking for
A rich
a
benefactor.
rich benefactor. I just happen to be looking for someone to take my money.
Goodwill won't do it.
Oh, no.
No.
No, we got as much as we can out of Goodwill.
We're never going again.
So, Mandy, welcome to the Backstairs Podcast.
Thank
So
you.
happy to have you here. This is a community theater podcast, and up till now, we've pretty much had guests that were part of our community. Meaning
Not saying that
myself,
you're not.
meaning myself, John, and Aaron. We all knew everybody that's been here. Now we've got somebody that John and Aaron don't know so well, but is part of the community that I've built since coming into this theater world, and I'm bringing more of my community into.
How did you meet Mandy?
So Mandy was running the Celebration Barn, and I did one of Sally Jones's storytelling shows. And
Oh, okay.
That's how we first met. And then we brought Lisa Moore's show up there to the barn, and then she helped me get going along with some improv stuff.
Oh, cool.
We talked about that was before I went to Chicago.
It was right before you.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That was pretty neat. She was very helpful with that. So Mandy, tell us just where you're from. Are you from the area?
I am from South Paris, Maine. I was
Oh,
born
way over in
at
South Paris.
Stevens Memorial Hospital,
Oh, man.
just
Nice.
a mile from where we sit.
Yeah,
Jeez.
Yes,
So
awesome.
but I live in Buckfield now. So
Okay.
from
That's
away,
okay.
it's good to
You're
come
on-
home.
on the other side of the
mountain.
hill.
In Buckfield, they think
Yeah.
I'm from away.
Right, Oxford Hills graduate.
That's right.
Yes.
Proud Viking.
Awesome. Well, I've got something here I want to read. And speaking of our letters from Sally knows Mandy quite well, and she had some words, and I'm going to read them
Oh.
to us because they were in the mailbox.
I saw
From
the flag
Sally.
was up earlier.
The flag was up.
Yeah.
I opened it up, and it just happened to be a letter from Sally about Mandy Huotari.
Wow.
Wow.
Convenient.
I mean, shocking, really. So here's what she says. Mandy Huotari is an amazing woman who can do anything from running a business like the Celebration Barn to a home with a husband and 2 beautiful children.
Mhm.
She is an artist in her soul. She is hysterically funny. Ever seen one of her original solo shows? A terrifically gifted physical actor. I will never forget her standing on a very small box with two others, negotiating turns and comic business as the audience roared in laughter. But neither will I forget her compelling performance in a tight two-person drama at Mad Horse Theater. She can do it all. I directed Mandy on stage in my Oxford Hills Drama Club and watched her go off to Emerson. I knew her talent, and I also knew she couldn't stay away from the barn, where she had studied since she was a young girl. While the barn had existed for years, with Mandy's vision, it became not only a place for professional performers to study in a beautiful summer setting, but it also became a destination for the community where locals could take fun workshops and be entertained on the weekends with a variety of wonderful shows of all kinds. Besides that, Mandy continually improved the theater and the grounds, making the Celebration Barn a welcoming place for all. And now Mandy has begun the next phase of her remarkable career, leaving behind a legacy of a Celebration Barn that has enriched the Oxford Hills art scene as never before. Good luck, Mandy. We salute you.
Aww.
So we love to hear from Sally, and I know you love Sally as well, and we'll get into her
Yes.
a little more. She gave me a few other notes that we might bring up here shortly. But what got you started in theater and acting and all that to begin with? I guess let's hear that.
Well, of course, Sally Jones is a champion and a dear friend who was my high school drama teacher. But I also want to shout out the first woman who really brought theater into the classroom, and that was Mrs. Karen Ellis, who was my second grade teacher. And did any of you have Mrs. Ellis by chance?
I didn't. She was around some, but I never had her.
So
personally.
she's amazing because, she spent many years teaching, but prior to being a teacher, she was a clown and went through Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Clown School.
No way.
I didn't know that.
So she brought this real, she radiated love and brought real magic and sense of play and celebration into the classroom. And then she wrote these original shows and would cast the class, and we put on shows. So she was the first one to really say, let's make a show. Wow. And then, of course, getting to high school and working with Sally for 4 years. And Sally shares so much passion and such a love for drawing that passion out in her students that she really made it possible. She really created that sense that anything was possible.
Right.
And so enormous gratitude and love to her.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. So you started out very young, second grade. That's pretty young. I did play the troll in 3 Billy Goat's Gruff in preschool. I should mention, but
Did you? Fantastic
I
role.
can see that.
Are you saying I look like a troll?
In fact, we could reenact it. You could be the troll now, and we can be Billy Goats.
Right. And the table can act as our bridge. Get off my lawn.
If we run out of stuff, we'll go there.
Right. Okay. All right.
That's good options. It's good to have options.
It is. That's right. That's right. So tell us a little bit about some of the stuff you did when you got into high school.
Yeah. So I was actually in 8th grade. In 6th grade, someone came into our 6th grade classroom and taught us how to juggle. And that actually opened a door because she introduced me to Celebration Barn Theater. And so I started going up to the barn, and that was Celebration Barn's an international training center for physical theater artists, and it draws artists from all over the world. And it was there in the audience at Celebration Barn that I really saw that not just anything was possible on stage, but that performers could transform into anything on stage.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And that was instantly a magical place. And then when I was in 8th grade, I took my first workshop at the barn. The workshops are generally for adults, but I had been hanging out and volunteering, and they said, if you want to come in and take a class, there's an opportunity to work with Fred Garbo in June.
Oh, no way.
And that was an antic arts class that brought in folks from Australia and Germany, and these people were just so lit up.
Yeah.
And I hadn't met adults who felt to me like they were so outside the box. I mean, it was like breaking every convention that I had up until that point.
Yeah.
And so that was an even like deeper immersion into you can and must listen to your heart.
Yeah.
And honor that.
Awesome.
Yeah.
That is great. So that's 8th grade. You're really getting involved in Celebration Barn.
In Celebration Barn, and then I just hung out there. Yeah. I basically didn't
Pretty
leave.
much lived there.
And I was working and volunteering and then working and doing whatever. I was working in the office. I drove students back and forth from the airport for years and stayed in touch through college. I went to Emerson for theater, but stayed in touch with the barn and moved to San Francisco after that and did some theater there, but continued to just a relationship with Celebration Barn. And then, long story short, ended up becoming the director in 2007.
Wow.
Would you be willing to give a little bit of context on Celebration Barn, how it was formed or anything like that?
Yeah. So the barn was started in 1972 by Tony Montanaro. And Tony Montanaro was a mime, a world traveling performer who was really looking for a place to settle down with his family of 6 kids and had been living in New York and New Jersey and wanted to start a school. And Leos Matolci, who founded the Matolci Art Center here, was best friends with Tony. And when an old farm went up for sale on Stock Farm Road, Leos said, you got to come take a look at it. And the story is that they pulled in with their caravan, and there are pictures of the house before they moved into it, and those pictures of the building. Yeah. So historied. I mean, it was the farmhouse was built around 1825. It was the stock farm of Stock Farm Road. It was an old racehorse barn, but it had been emptied and was really quite dilapidated with animals living in, no windows, no glass in the windows. And the fact that Tony pulled in there, looked at this structure and said, this is it, let's make it happen. To me, that alone indicated that he was a man of great vision and great optimism.
Yeah.
And he did it.
Yeah.
Now, Tony was, maybe I'm wrong in this, but wasn't he a student of Marcel Marceau?
They were really contemporaries.
Were they?
Yeah. So they worked alongside each other, and he came in and performed one of Marcel's. The story is that he performed Marceau's, I think, butterfly sketch. And then Marceau told him, you must never perform that again.
Wow.
Because he did it so well.
Because he did it so well.
Wow.
Yeah. And, Marcel Marceau was extraordinary. And I saw him perform a couple of times, and those performances were utterly riveting. But Tony, they were both coming from a French tradition, and there had been a real movement of mime through the 50s and 60s. And that has really continued. But Tony brought something a little bit different. And that was that he really wanted to integrate the whole performer. So he used his voice. Tony was all about breaking the rules and really, really following this sense of impulse and improvisation. So stylistically, they were very different, but both incredible, physically eloquent performers.
That's amazing.
Wow.
Do you have any idea how many people have gone through Celebration Barn? Is there any type of statistic at all, or how many? No idea.
I don't know. Thousands.
Got to be thousands anyways, right?
It must be international.
For sure.
From several different countries, obviously. Wow.
Yeah, a typical season may have folks from 9 to 12 countries.
And they just had their 50th season.
And last summer was the Barn's 50th anniversary. Yeah.
Wow.
50 years. So, I'll get there, another 20. Right, guys? Right?
Yeah.
Right, Aaron?
Right. I mean, I think your 5 grandchildren will help you.
It's amazing to me to think that we have such a resource so close here. I mean,
Right.
it's pretty special.
It is really extraordinary. And, it's so powerful to be there especially when you have artists that have traveled, some of them have traveled from the other side of the world. And when they walk in and say, I've waited a really long time to get here.
Wow.
There's this sense of it being the Mecca it is. And it's like as modest and humble. It really is just an old barn.
Right.
It is.
But now it's an old barn that has held the spirit of so many artists.
Yeah.
And so many people have gone through such personal and creative transformations there that's what has imbibed the space. That's what makes it so powerful.
Man, I feel like I've been missing out. I feel like I need to go to more shows at Celebration of Barn.
Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, go and take some workshops. There's summer long, there's generally they're week long intensives, but you go stay on site and just do a real deep dive immersion.
So cool.
And there's nothing more, nothing more transformative than just surrendering to creating the work and doing it with the people that are there who are there for the same reason.
Yeah.
Nice.
That's so cool. That's so cool.
So we'll get into more Celebration Barn, but you're in high school. What'd you do for shows while you were here in school? Just drama shows? Did you do the school community thing?
I'm not a singer or a dancer, so I never did the community musicals, but I worked with Oompa and we did Butterflies Are Free. That might have been in college. There was a production of Bus Stop that we rehearsed for, and then for some reason it didn't go up, I was remembering. But worked with Oompa and started writing some shows, started working with Mike Micklon.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
He's a cool guy.
He's a great guy. Yeah.
Nice. So
And kind of famous in his own right.
Mike Micklon is very
Holy
famous.
smokes. If you do a deep dive on what he's been involved in,
he's
the list is
incredible.
long.
Yeah. Mike is so talented in so many ways, but one of the things that makes him extraordinary is the degree to which he says yes to his massive ideas. He has so many ideas, and they're just things that people would be like, oh, wouldn't that be awesome? But Mike's just like, we're doing it.
We're making it happen.
We're starting tomorrow. And he does. He's like, buy a building, turn it into a theater. Sure. Go to work for another theater and build a $5 million, 500-seat theater inside. Yeah, let's do that. Make a movie. Make
a viral YouTube video.
Yeah.
He's worked. Well, that was Fritz and Steven who did the Diet Coke and Mentos videos.
Yeah. He wasn't part of that though?
Mike helped out on it, but he wasn't directly that partnership. But
I knew he
Mike
wasn't
and
on camera. I
Fritz-
thought this whole time I thought he directed and produced it, and that was his idea. So
Mike, if you did, I love you. And
sorry,
I might not have.
Sorry if you didn't.
Well, the Mike Fritz collaboration has been many, many years. The three of us also created and toured together for several years. So, and all of those relationships grew out of Celebration Barn.
Yeah.
Fritz and Mike met in one workshop one summer. I met Mike in another one, and then Fritz and I met. So.
Wow. That's awesome. So you went off to college to Emerson.
Mm-hmm.
What did you major in? Just theater?
Theater.
Was it just theater?
Yeah.
Do any shows there?
I did some shows. Yeah, we did Angels in America. Did some Christopher Durang, which was really liberating. That was actually the first time that I was playing with a script and felt that the script was liberating. Most of the time I was always drawn to creating original work. And even at Emerson, much of my focus was on working with a comedy improv troupe called This Is Pathetic. And we, for 4 years, that was our schedule. We'd go to rehearse our regular shows and then meet at 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. That was when we had time.
Yeah.
But, Emerson was beautifully resourced in that there were all these quirky little theaters and we could get into them. So we could just do shows. And
that's so much fun.
It was so fun.
Wow.
Yeah.
Huh. Yeah. So you went off to San Francisco.
Yeah. quartet of us that had been improv trouping together in Boston moved out to San Francisco. To the sort of excuse to go out was to intern with the San Francisco Mime Troupe, which interestingly was founded by Ronnie Davis, also kind of a contemporary of Tony Marcel Marceau. So Ronnie Davis was part of this like influx, and like Peter Schumann moved to Vermont and opened Bread and Puppet, and Tony came to Maine, and Ronnie Davis was out in San Francisco. So it was this sort of wave of a European influence of American contemporary theater. And the Mime Troupe was creating original work and doing their own bent on it. They're really political. But it was fun to get out west and feel, you know, I grew up in Maine and grew up right here. So that suddenly,
right.
I was just like, oh my gosh.
I can imagine.
It was so like,
a little different.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of early improv stuff went on in San Francisco. The name eludes me, but like Del Close, some of his early work was out there. I believe. I'm sorry. It's totally forgetting.
He's probably your age.
30 is rough. Yes, it is.
That move though, you must have been suddenly immersed in like not that there's not talent here, but I mean, that must have been a little bit of a shock to. I mean,
it was like the culture. There was some culture shock of just being that everything felt so energized, and people were just felt I don't know, really open, and there was a real. Again, it was a sort of like playfulness that I was attracted to. There were so many people doing, and because we were there with the Mime Troupe, we were like kind of tapped into this underground. Everything felt underground. It was very DIY. Like the first company we started working with was called Popcorn Theater, and they had a giant bus, and they drove the audience around on the bus and would stage different. We would come in as an act and then do pick a location, and the audience would get led.
Yeah. That's so sure.
So just yeah, it felt like there were people to play with.
Yeah.
And I think, you know, I grew up as an only child, and I think baseline, that was all I wanted. I was like, I've always just wanted people to play with. And then theater is great. Like, we all agree, right? We're going to play together.
Yeah. Right. Yeah.
People on stage and in the audience. Let's go.
Right. Nice. I like that.
Yeah.
I grew up kind of like that, although I'm one of 5 boys. My other brothers were so much older. It seemed like I was an only child. So I was always looking for people to play with. And still nobody will play with me. Oh,
we're here.
That's not true.
We're here.
Not true. That's what we're doing here. Right?
See, I was
looking for people to play with. That's
why
we started the podcast.
My siblings, so you know, I felt alone too.
It's okay, Autumn. He still likes you. It's okay. She's not listening.
This will be the test.
So we talked about your mime troupe. We're going to get into more of the Celebration Barn stuff, but you worked in the box office with the Blue Man Group.
I did in college.
In college, you did?
Yeah.
Just taking tickets?
Yeah, I worked in the office. I worked in the box office, and then also would like manage the volunteers that came in, which was hilarious because one of the volunteer jobs for Blue Man is to like hand out those paunches and then clean up the paunches afterwards, which are covered in banana.
Okay. Right.
And then you talk to the random, you know, occasionally there's somebody who's disgruntled or just you need to talk through the logistics of covering their dry cleaning bill or whatever. But one of the amazing experiences about that was to just feel the potential that this, you know, Blue Man started on the streets. It was a street act. And so it was a very original, very unconventional piece. Yeah. Now, of course, it's had like another 2 decades of commercial success, but to just go, that's possible, you know, this very commercial development of work is possible.
Yeah.
Right. From some random street act.
From guys like playing around on the street. Yeah. Which I always thought that was so cool.
That is crazy. I saw them once at Merrill, and it was quite a show. And somebody getting upset about getting their clothes messy at a Blue Man Group show.
They must not know
Did-
like what they're getting into.
Did they
That's
not
and
know
that
what
is
to
not a
expect?
common thing. I will say this is my
Yeah.
disclaimer for Blue Man, but I think that it stood out to me because it was thrilling to me that could happen.
Yeah.
I was just like, no one would expect that we're having a conversation about banana on your soup. It just to me is indicated like this is a really unique experience.
Yeah,
That is.
100% unique. I mean, is there anything? I guess Stomp was, but that they were way after Blue Man Group.
I think
Yeah.
that Stomp came out afterwards, but yeah, and I was just seeing that I think Stomp is closing in New York. But another
Oh.
like example of just an incredible kind of commercial success
Yeah.
that grew. What I love about it is just thinking of when it started with people going, watch this,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know, and then being like, dude, that's cool.
Yeah.
Watch this. Yes. And, you know,
Yes,
and then they start like building these ideas and being like, I think this is actually like really cool, you know? And I just love that the potential of things that everything starts with a watch this.
Yeah.
Yes.
And it starts
And-
with this, like, I know this is a dumb idea, but that moment that you go from like, all right, let's get rid of the part that says it's dumb. Like, yeah, it's an idea. Let's develop it.
Yeah. Watch this or yes and.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Huh.
That is awesome. So, I mean, you've been going along strong. San Francisco, Boston, but Emerson's in Boston, right? Yeah. But you came back here. Were you already back here when Celebration came calling, or?
No, I
Did they bring
actually,
you back?
I went to France to go to the Lecoq School, which is sort of the center hub of physical theater training.
Mhm.
And it was just something that I had always wanted to do. And so in 2005, I was there for the year and came out of that year. And it was so within the world of Celebration Barn. It also helped really connect. It was it's a full pedagogy. So it was just helping connect a lot of dots of things that I'd been sort of exposed to, but then going, oh my gosh, wow, it's just the study that everything moves and everything can be represented with the human body. And what happens when you take your idea and you, not just the first idea, like you actually get past the watch this is cool thing
Yeah.
and go, but what if you take that seed of inspiration and then you mine it for all of the value that you can find. And then you really start developing the craft. And that's what I felt like the Lecoq School gave me, was the sense of like, that's when it goes further. And so I came home from the school and I was working with Carolyn Brett, who was the director at the time. And she said, I need to let you know that it has become, it's time for me to sort of pass the torch and be done. And I need to sell the barn, because at the time she was owner and director. And I said, there were some circumstances that had just happened. I had just received a financial gift. And I said, I just got some money. Could I pay you? Could I buy a piece of the property and I'll manage it? And she said, well, let's figure out a way to make it happen. So that was, it was a major plot point.
So
I would say so.
Plot point sounds like a break point.
Oh, do you want to take a break?
Yes.
Well,
Sounds good.
all right.
All right. We're back from break. And we're talking to Amanda Huotari, in case you forgot while we were gone. But of course you didn't forget, because how could you forget such an amazing...
I forgot to ask, Aaron, is she beautiful and talented and beautifully talented?
I don't know if you've listened to the podcast before, but
Which is okay if you haven't. Which is
completely understandable. But when I introduce somebody, I usually don't know what to say, so I just say that they're beautiful and they're talented and
They're beautifully talented.
They're beautifully talented,
But tonight we haven't given him any spaces to talk. So
which is fine.
So there's an interesting thing about that, because, so I worked with Mike McClellan on the early evening show for years, and he would always, the intro would say, please welcome the beautiful and talented Amanda Huotari. And so I was introducing Ian Bannon, who I was working with one night at a live performance in Celebration Barn. And in the moment that I thought, I'm calling Ian out, and I thought, like, what do I say? And I said, please welcome the talented and handsome Ian Bannon. And in that moment, he looked at me and it was like as if it was the weirdest thing. I felt so self-conscious. Like I was just like, I mean, right. And then it was just so interesting that like beautiful and talented was like a totally reasonable way to introduce a woman. But to introduce a man by saying he was like handsome and talented was just like, what? I just thought that was so funny.
Yeah, that's super weird. John, do you remember this? There was this guy that was at the teen center, and he was like doing some like martial arts thing. And he had an intro, like of like his accomplishments and stuff like this. And like the guy who's introducing him starts like reading off a couple, and then he kind of looks at the guy and he's just like, yeah, keep going.
Do them all.
Do it to them all. And I'm like, and it's a room of like teenagers, and it's like, I've been on the board of blah blah blah, and the president of blah blah blah, and we're like,
it was like a conquering king was coming in.
I know,
ruler of the 7 sectums.
Yeah, it was like the Queen Targaryen or whatever.
Mother of dragons.
I was like, just do your cool sword thing. I don't care that you were like
the music too. Remember the music. Anyway,
so I strive to be very quick and succinct.
Yes,
succinct. Thank you.
There you go.
So
that
great. Back to Mandy.
Yeah, enough about my stupid stories.
Aaron get his time in.
I like that story. That was good. It fit.
Yeah, sure. So Mandy, you've now taken over as executive director at the Celebration Barn.
Ooh.
So let's get into some of those early years. What were some of the things you were bringing in and ideas you had?
Yeah, it took some time, I think, before I even felt like I knew what I was doing and what ideas I had. Yeah, there was a lot of time. I mean, we spent years really developing the nonprofit, which was in an interesting place because it had so much history and so much artistic lineage.
Mm-hmm.
And that the organization, in terms of running as a nonprofit, basically hadn't really had to develop at the same pace because it was sort of sustaining itself for years.
Yeah.
So we, working with the board of directors, we spent a lot of time educating ourselves and learning about running a nonprofit and learning how to fundraise and how to continue to grow programming and marketing and all of that. And there was a real focus on just reintegrating the barn back into the community. And so we developed school programming and brought artists into schools and got to bring all of the elementary students in Oxford Hills up to the barn for performances, which was really incredible.
That's cool.
There were threads that really started to emerge. So we started developing a real clowning track. And for people who don't do clowning work, I feel like it brings up all of the worst connotations, right? Like you picture Bozo the Clown or
right.
Ronald McDonald or something. But the theatrical clowning is really setting the stage for the fool's and hero's journey, where you see someone who's just coming out to do their best and builds this relationship with the audience and ultimately succeeds, but they take the longest possible way to get there.
Yeah.
So we did a lot of clowning work at the barn, and Avner Eisenberg has taught there for many years. He had his solo show on Broadway, but has spent his entire career touring his show and becoming one of the real world's leading clown teachers. Aitor Basori came to the barn during that time. He is one of the co-founding directors of Spy Monkey, which is the UK's premier physical theater ensemble. Wild company, so much fun, radically, dangerously playful.
Is that how you met him?
I met him in a workshop in New York and then invited him into the barn. Now he's been coming to the barn for 10 years or so.
Wow.
And also we really started developing and exploring with Jeff Worth interactive performance, and that being fundamentally about reimagining the relationship between the performer and the audience, and what happens when we empower the audience to be even co-creators of the narrative that's happening on stage. What happens when we open up the possibility of something happening on stage tonight that has never happened before and will never happen again. And we do that in co-creation with the relationship, in co-creation with the audience.
Yeah.
And so those were two of the threads that also became most influential in my personal work. And at Celebration Barn, I got to work both in ensembles and developing solo work. But I just left Celebration Barn, so I was there for 15 years. And now I'm so proud to say that there is a new executive artistic director. David Bruin is there. He just finished his first year as director and is doing a phenomenal job.
That's great.
But there reached a point at the barn where suddenly I went, okay, I want to make new work.
Yeah.
Like I really want to focus on that. Yeah.
So, all right, let's hear about this.
So what's
new
happening?
Work. What's happening?
Well, so a lovely thing happened like the week before I was handing things over to David at the barn, which is I received the Maine Arts Commission's Performing Arts Fellowship, which comes with a $5,000 unrestricted gift. It's not a gift. I mean, they would call it an award. It's different than a grant because you don't have to, with a grant, you have to deliver on these promises.
Exactly, yep.
And so that award was so empowering because I was in this big transition, but it was also, it felt like something about it. I mean, I feel both like embarrassed to admit that it was validating, but it just made me want to go, give everybody money. Be like, hell yeah, you're an artist.
Yeah.
What would you like to make?
Yeah.
And so it was just this really empowering moment of going, now what?
Yeah.
And realizing that I needed to take some time to decompress out of the busyness of running the barn to figure that out.
Yeah.
It's like I had the desire, but I didn't even know what to do yet. I had to unwire myself.
Yeah.
I had gotten really conditioned to do as much as I could, as fast as I could, with as little as I could. And that works really well until it doesn't anymore. So I spent the last year applying for other grants and doing some residency work and doing a local show up and play theater without a script workshop and starting to create again. Yeah. And I'm in now this place where I just premiered a couple of places at the end of the barn season this fall. But there are a couple of new characters emerging and some sort of new threads.
Yeah. Janelle was raving about the that thing you did at the library. What did you say it was?
It was really incredible. Yeah, show up and play theater without a script.
Yeah.
And it came through creative aging support from the Maine Arts Commission. So it was specifically for participants ages 55 and up.
Scott, you just missed
next year.
Almost.
I love you too, Aaron.
But it was a really beautiful experience to just invite people in the room to play together and to go, how do we build community and connection through play? And we had a really gorgeous, generous group.
Yeah.
They did beautiful things. Yeah.
I can imagine. I was talking to one of my friends who was part of it, and they just loved it. And it just seems it seems like something that is great for like stage and everything, but it's also like I feel like a part of life too. It's just like
Yeah,
it's improvisation.
Yeah.
Man. What do I keep saying?
That you're 30.
Oh yeah. Well, other than that
was improv on my part right there. That was a little
nice. Yeah, that's good. That's good. See, you're learning. You're learning.
Remember earlier how you asked, do we edit stuff out? A good chunk of this probably.
All my crappy jokes will be edited out. Don't worry.
But I think that's the beautiful and universal thing, right? That we are all improvisers.
Yeah.
And we know that because we do it every second of every single day.
Yeah.
And then some of us choose to identify as improvisers and go like, well, why do we do that? Like, what is the adventure and how do we turn up and amplify the very thing that makes us feel wildly alive? Because I feel like that is what the spirit of improvisation is. And finding now that I'm really curious about that off stage. Previously, I really think I had found it on stage. So that was what I thought was the secret ingredient. And now I'm like, oh, on stage is just one location.
Yeah.
Actually.
That's wonderful.
Yeah.
So what do you mean by that? Like, do you just strike up interesting conversations with people on the street, or
that's a great way to do it.
Yeah.
Yes. To really the question is like, how do we draw ourselves into presence, into the present moment? How do we do that in a way that we then connect with each other and feel it sink into a deeper level where suddenly like you feel like, yes, something different is possible.
Yeah.
And then how do we say yes to first to ourselves? And that means really clearing out some stuff.
Yeah.
Like we're in so many habits and we're so conditioned and we play a part all the time and we present what we think the world wants to see from us. And we do that from a young age because that's how we make it,
right.
you know? But then there reaches a point when that's really limiting. And there are so many other ways to be and so many other ways of showing up and so many other things that are possible.
Yeah.
Huh.
And that space really delights me right now.
I can totally see it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm interested in your creative process. I imagine you're not sitting in front of the television watching TV a good part of the day. You know, what does your day look like, you know, when you're in that creative mindset and trying to get the juices flowing, I guess?
Yeah.
What
So
do you do?
one practice that's become really integrated for me is a yoga practice, yoga and meditation.
Yeah.
And for a long time, I just thought it was something different than it was. I mean, I've been practicing yoga for like 20 years and it was helpful to move energy. But lately and in the past few years, I've done teacher training and did a 500-hour teacher training. And that shift in my relationship where now I feel like it's essential to just opening up the space, like way slowing down. Breathing.
Yeah.
Opening up the space for new possibilities and then really listening and tuning into what the new possibilities are that are emerging. And the process is so much slower than I ever gave it credit for. Like I said, I was in such a habit of as much as you can, as fast as you can, and got really good at cranking stuff out. You know, we can make things happen.
Yeah.
But now I'm really interested in things that are happening from a deeper impulse.
Huh. Wow. And you gotta take that time.
You got to take the
let it
time. Yeah. So it's really interesting with this writing process because I've written a few new pieces in the last few months. And what I'm finding is that it's hard for me to know where they are. It's like that they have this organic life. It takes this like really slowing down to let things be born and then really just staying curious about what it is and not starting to shape and control things into something that I think that they could be, should be, or can be faster. And I feel like that's just a different, that's so different than how I ever thought about things just like when I was younger.
Well, it's so different from the world today. I think we just always want that instant gratification. I mean, I start a diet today. I want to lose 30 pounds by tomorrow morning. You know, and any result, or you know what, if I
we're so addicted to dopamine and the instant gratifications of our phones that we expect results and stimulation quickly.
Yeah.
And I think we're kind of deprived of what happens when we aren't stimulating ourselves? Because that's just another addiction, really. And we're covering up. We're limiting ourselves. We're staying deeply rooted in patterns.
Yeah.
And it's going to limit what we are capable of. And it's suppressing what is our natural, innate self that is a creative force of nature.
Wow. I like that.
Yeah.
It's a really interesting way of looking at it.
Yeah.
I know from, especially when you bring up words like the either, well, I know for me at least, right? Physical comedy is huge in everything that I am as an actor or performer. Like I grew up on just falling in love with some of the most amazing, in my eyes, right? SNL and
John Ritter.
Oh my gosh. I mean, like Belushi and Candy. I mean, I Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. I think I watched that like 100 times when I was a kid. Right. And so that idea of fast, quick, the energy behind it has always been how I view it. Right. Even my personal, the best way to get a laugh is quick and wit. And the idea of slowing down and really taking, I don't know, that's a whole different mindset to me.
And I don't think it's in like contrast. It's just broadening the palette.
Yeah, right.
Yeah,
of course. But it's always felt like it needs to happen then. Planning has not. I don't know. It's crazy to think that, like, not necessarily planning what you're going to do ahead, but getting your mind in that space. And yeah, I'm sure that's quite the tool. So,
yeah, it was like it. Just like with like writing and other things you're creating, it's very important to slow down and to like again like a mind image of like somebody making a sculpture out of like stones. Like you don't do a couple hits and all of a sudden the statue of David appears. It's like there's layers that you have to like remove, and you have to like dig out and be patient and really form these things. So it's super important to like to slow down and not over, if you take too much of a statue off, then all of a sudden you might ruin what you have in your mind already.
I also love that metaphor because there's this revelation about what the sculpture is actually going to be. It's like you have an idea and that might be what compels you, but then ultimately you are in co-creation with the material and with with gravity.
Yeah. And who you are at that moment.
Yeah.
Like whenever I write, it's very, in the moment of like, but like, I always find myself when I'm writing, I'm like, it's almost done. I feel like I'm like, oh, if I can just get like a couple more verses, or like if I can get a paragraph here and there. And it's like, then I'm like almost done. But I feel like it's super important to just like to slow down and just be like, well, let's unpack what has happened already.
And what is happening right now.
Yeah, exactly. So no, I appreciate you saying that. I think it's really important to remind ourselves sometimes.
So in your writing process, is editing a big part of that slowing down thing? Or
I think of it as more evolution than editing.
Yeah.
Because it evolves. I do a lot of writing on my feet. Writing through improvisation.
Yeah.
And now we'll do a lot more videoing or voice recording. My whole first solo show, most of the show, except for all the physical stuff, but the arc of the show and a lot of the narrative of the show was written in the car into a voice recorder. I was like teaching in Bangor and driving. So even though it was like I was alone in the car, it felt like it was written improvisationally and then evolved, and I would eventually transcribed it and did some more shaping of it. But then it really, a lot of my work also has developed more in front of the audience when it becomes a living, breathing thing.
Wow.
Yeah, that's important too. Like in the moment stuff.
That's everything. That's the only thing there is.
Yeah. It's like the show we just did. There was a lot of improv in it. Yeah. And just like working it out night after night. We're like, oh, that didn't get the laugh I was hoping for. So maybe I just needed like a little tweak here and
right.
there.
It was so sweet that first night. And then you chase that. You chase like, when I get back there, it's like, oh, that's the death of comedy.
Yeah. That's so true. So yeah, no.
John, didn't you have some questions about some of her solo shows? Is that what you were thinking? What were you thinking?
Well, I had one question, right? And it goes back to what you said earlier. You said that you are not a singer.
Right.
Right. And what was the other thing you said very clearly? You were not a dancer, right?
That doesn't mean, John, that I won't sing and dance on stage. I'm just saying that doesn't usually sell the tickets.
This is where I'm going with this, right? Yeah. So I am a singer.
Yes.
I do not consider myself an actor or anything else. I don't. I primarily am a singer.
You're not a dancer?
I can dance.
You can dance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I've shared before with guests we've had that I found myself not getting roles sometimes, especially in high school, because I had never really scoped out my acting chops, never really focused on dancing and being light on my feet, anything like that. And because I did that, I groomed those areas of my talent, I guess. I discovered I had, success in those areas. So, I mean, you said you don't consider yourself a singer, but you must have, you've had roles where you sang.
Yeah, no one has ever paid me to sing on stage.
Nor me.
I don't think that has ever sold a single ticket.
Have you ever done anything?
But yes, no, I have sung and danced and yeah. And I actually come to think of it, John. I sang a cappella song in one solo show and then had a big dance number in another. But those were in service to what the show needed. Mm-hmm. And they were in service to what the audience needed at that point. What they didn't, it wasn't that they needed to hear my voice, but it offered, it diversified the show and packed some surprises and was ridiculous.
And then speaking of those solo shows, you've had some pretty good success when it comes to your solo work that you've written. And I kind of went down the rabbit hole that is Pretty Face earlier today. So I was hoping that you would be willing to share just, where'd it come from? What spawned?
So, Pretty Face is always a dangerous thing to talk about because I'm afraid that people will start assuming a whole lot of things about it. Mm-hmm. One of the impulses behind Pretty Face is that I had been studying something called bouffant, which is another form of clowning. Okay. The difference between a bouffant and a clown is that in clown, the audience laughs at the clown. And in bouffant, the bouffant character laughs at the audience. So the bouffant works very satirically to really provoke the audience. It's really holding up a mirror and saying, look at you now, look at you now. So that Pretty Face show was also born out of me just trying to make sense out of the experience of American democracy that was happening through the Trump administration and really wrestling with this sense that everybody was so damn right. Like everyone was right. And there was so much anger and there was so much finger pointing. And I also was just really struggling with what Trump represented to me. I was very curious about this lone character of Tiffany Trump. So now I feel like she's now come into much more public spotlight, but she showed up at the 2016 convention and nobody knew who she was. And she gave this speech for her father and everyone's like, wait, who is this? It was like a new person, a new child, but they had found they're like, we have the millennial voice to fight for this campaign. And I was just fascinated by her story and by the way that going back through videos and through interviews, how her story as the sole child of Marla Maples and Donald Trump had been portrayed in the moments that it was portrayed in the spotlight. So that show was the Tiffany Trump story. And it's the guts of it were ultimately asking the audience, how free are you?
Wow. Cool.
I've never heard of Tiffany Trump.
No.
I stay out of
a little bit.
I stay out of politics pretty hard.
Yeah, now she's a kind of a celebrity in her own right.
Yeah.
Right?
She's
gonna be on Dancing with the Stars next week.
Is she?
Yeah. Well, she released a single. I forget which year it was, but when she was 17, she released a single called Like a Bird, and that was the dance number in the show.
Oh, geez. I don't remember that. But okay.
But
nice.
What was so exciting about that show was that it was because it was such a hot topic issue that it was, it really put people on the edge of their seats. And then that became what we were playing with. And the show was, the show more than anything I've ever performed got really strong reactions, including it was the first show that somebody ever walked out on. And that became a highlight moment of the show. Yeah, it was very moving.
I have one of those too. I'm pretty proud of it.
Yeah.
Yes, John.
I'm pretty proud.
Yes.
Yeah.
We have reached that pinnacle of having people walk out.
Oh my gosh, I've never been prouder. And it's the tier to beat now, right? And you toured quite a bit with that show, right?
Yeah, I got to take it to Montreal and to Honolulu.
Oh, wow.
That's really cool.
That's like
it's
dramatic.
Opposite directions. Yeah.
Right. Nice.
And that's not the only decent sized show that you've written, right? Because you had another.
I had a solo show called The Soiree, which was directed by Avner Eisenberg. And in that show, the show's a party. And so the audience become the invited guests of Elizabeth, who is looking to host a very lovely affair. And she slowly falls apart over the course of the evening. And it's in turns like ridiculous and off the wall, and also very sweet and sentimental and tragic in its own beautiful way.
That'd be a great show for the Oompa stage, if you ask me. But
so has anyone else ever starred in your shows? Have you ever had anyone step into those characters?
Me. Oh, no.
Is that anything you'd ever see somebody doing, stepping into one of your works?
Maybe someday. Yeah. I felt like it's such a personal journey of writing something that is what you feel compelled to write at the time.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I never really thought about someone else playing the part.
Nifty.
I bet that'd be nifty. Cool.
Well, cool, but what a challenge. Oh my gosh. I can't even imagine watching someone. I mean, you've put so much into that character and what you think that character is, and then you developed it after you wrote it. And I can't even imagine watching someone else.
It'd be so much fun. And you really see how what holds up.
Yeah, right.
Definitely interesting. Yeah. Yeah.
How many shows have you written?
Well, a couple of solo shows and then several ensemble shows.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
What were some of the ensemble shows?
A few years ago, well, we talked a little bit earlier about some of the interactive stuff at Celebration Barn, which was fun in terms of reimagining the relationship with the audience.
It was so much fun. So much fun.
Was called Camp Maine, A Night on the Town. Camp Maine, The Last Hurrah at Camp Maine. That was at Celebration Barn, where the barn itself was the oldest summer camp in Maine state history, and the audience members all played alumni of this camp.
Yeah, that's the one I went to, and it was just such a blast. It was, I'm trying to remember my character's name, but he was like a farmer and like I was so confused when I got there just because I didn't know what I was getting into.
Yeah. So the audience arrived and the first thing they did was went over to the like welcome station where they picked out a name tag. So they found out who their character was for the show. And if people didn't expect that, they're along for the ride. But we were really careful that audience members could choose their level of participation. So if you wanted to, you could put on a sticker that was basically saying, I want to be a spectator. You could choose a character that was going to be interactive, or you could choose one of the featured characters, which meant you were actually really integrated into the show. And those people would held major narrative plot points of the story.
I don't think I picked my name. I think I'm thinking back. I think we got there and the person who bought the tickets just gave us names.
Okay.
So I assume that I got like the mid tier.
Okay.
Not like, because I don't think I had like any plot points.
Okay.
But it was just so funny, like having like actors come up and be like, "Oh my gosh, I haven't seen you since what year did we go?" And then it was like, "Oh yes, yes, I remember you." And you're like trying to like come up with like this, backstory for your character on the spot, because I didn't think that I should do something like that.
Yeah.
And it was so much fun. It was so much fun.
So that makes me think about the show we just did. We did the 25th annual Putnam County Spelling Bee, and we had some audience participation in that, where we brought some audience members up to be spellers in the spelling bee. So I guess what I'm asking is, how do you go about doing that? I mean, that's our first try at bringing the audience into the show.
Yeah.
And especially the first night, we really struggled with it.
Yeah.
And as we went along, it got easier. But what are your thoughts when you want the audience participation, but you don't know who's coming that night and
What you
Right.
do when
you're
people
going to
suck?
get?
And well, for first of all, to just acknowledge, I think for most of us, that is our nightmare.
Yeah.
Our nightmare is that we're going to go to a show and be singled out, and there is going to be expectations of us to perform something, and we're not going to know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's our nightmare in life.
Yeah.
And then you go to a theater show, and it's like, who's flipping the script? I hate you
Right.
people. I mean, I've had that experience for sure in shows. So part of it is really looking to how do you support the audience from the moment that they begin to interact with the show, and how do you start building that relationship and that rapport where you are looking to help the audience feel at ease, feel connected and supported by you, and then invite them into the play and be able to support them as a fellow improviser. So that it's so often, and you see it a lot in street theater stuff, that the joke is on the audience. So you pull someone up from the audience, they're helping out with the show, and then they are the butt of the joke.
Right.
And that reinforces all the stuff that we're afraid of.
Yeah.
So how do you, instead of making them the butt of the joke, make them the hero of the joke? How do you support them in getting to deliver the punchline?
Yeah, that happened during the show. It's like part of like the gag of it is Kristen, who was kind of like the announcer, would say something funny about them, like that's not true, or just like completely random, like, so and so is recovering from head lice, like
Sally takes 2 hours to watch 60 minutes.
Right. Exactly. So like it's just like that's that. They're the butt of the joke. Yeah.
So, that can also be okay. I think the first thing to look for is somebody who wants to play. And by wanting to play, I mean someone who, even if they, we would often go out and play with people pre-show in the audience. And just somebody wanting to play is somebody, do they hold eye contact? Are they laughing? Are they at ease enough so that they're laughing freely? Are they talking back to you? Like when you engage with them, do they play along?
Yeah.
And also, do they have a rapport with the people that they're there with, or are they clearly shut down and that this is uncomfortable enough in a way that it's like, yeah, I don't want to challenge your discomfort. Like, that's not what I'm here to do. Right. I'm here to liberate and play, but not to challenge and shut you down further.
Yeah.
So then when you're playing with a joke and the audience is the joke, the next question is to go, how does this person want to play? How do they like to engage?
Yes.
I have one character named Dolce who comes out, and her whole thing is that she says, okay, it's so fabulous to see me. Hello. So she loves the audience because she loves that they're here to adore her.
Right.
And so when people play that game back, whether they say, oh, you look lovely, or look at my lovely, then that's them choosing to play and participate however they want to. And then we follow that and let them, we say yes to what it is that they want to bring and what they want to play. So how somebody gets up and how you engage with them can be shaped by what you notice about how they are choosing to participate.
That's cool. you're really knowledgeable.
Thank you.
Yeah.
It's almost like she's got a lot of experience in theater.
Yeah. It seems like she's gone to a lot of schools for it too.
That I have.
All right, we're going to do one more break.
You have to pee?
Yeah, I didn't pee the last time, so I got to go this time. Okay. Get a refill, and then we're going to start to wrap things up.
All right.
Hey.
So are you familiar with the Jackass crew? Johnny Knoxville and all of them?
Not John, Aaron, and Scott.
No.
The actual Jackass.
Oh my gosh.
Started with like MTV.
From like a long time ago.
Yeah.
No.
Probably
more appropriate.
Name
They used to like come up to people on the street and prank them, right?
Mm.
Well, yeah, but they also just do like ridiculously stupid things for content.
Okay.
Right. I'm getting somewhere with this, but
Yeah.
And then with YouTube, right? YouTube is all about creating the content creators, whatever they can do to get views. I've read this documentary, or not read, watched a documentary recently about knowing the correct formula to get the most viral video on YouTube and all these different that's kind of the world that we live in now, right? Whatever gets the most views, whatever gets the most clicks. Yeah. And I guess, I mean, in a way it's kind of becoming like its own art form.
For
right?
sure.
And so I guess my question for you would be, I mean, in a way, what you are skilled and knowledgeable in, it does go hand in hand with that different. I mean, do you see any type of evolution in what you've done? Like, does your craft and what you see in a newer generation, has it evolved any? There must be some type of growth, or I don't know where I'm leading with this. I'm hoping that you're kind of.
Well, it was interesting. So in 2006, when we were talking about Fritz Grobe and Stephen Foltz earlier with EP Bird Productions, and they were the ones that dropped Mentos candies into Diet Coke and had one of the first hugely viral online videos. And that led them to a 15-year exploration of why was that so successful?
Yeah.
Steven's a trial lawyer turned clown, and Fritz is a mathematician turned juggler. And they met at Celebration Barn.
What is the difference between clown and lawyer?
Exactly. Yep.
Wow.
So
making money and not probably. Sorry.
Yeah. Sorry. No, go ahead.
Sorry, lawyers and clients.
Sorry. Don't sue us.
Yeah, I think Stephen would say it's a lot less distance than people would assume. Yeah. But they both attributed the success of that video to their training at Celebration Barn and going, well, here are what are the principles of developing a successful online video. And they also wrote a book about it. So they really looked at that question and really unpacked of how does it translate? And they're big advocates in, direct address to the camera, that you actually strip away a lot of the production values so that you have that immediacy.
What's the name of the book? Do you know?
That's a great question. It may be how to make a viral video.
We'll
link to that in the show notes.
Yes, link to that in the show notes.
I'm not sure, but we'll double check it.
Yeah. Huh. Cool.
Well, thank you.
How to put Mentos in Coke?
Well, you just take a Mento. You open up a bottle of Coke.
I was saying that's probably the name of their book.
Oh, okay.
No, I know how to put Mentos into a Coke.
Okay.
I've done it before.
You shouldn't ask if you already know how to do it. All right. Anyways, one of the things we like to ask people in theater is what obviously you've done a lot of shows.
How to build a hovercraft. That's the name of the book.
That's another book. That's a different book.
Well, never mind.
Yeah.
And that's a cool one too, though. It's loaded with science experiments. Okay.
Well, then part of the press Herald got it wrong. Scott's very questionable is where he's leading to.
No, I'm not yet. Well, I am questioning. I am asking a question, but we're not getting questionable yet.
Never mind. He's just being questionable.
Yeah. But one of the favorite questions we like to ask people is those the stage fails.
Mm-hmm.
What's happened in a show that, I mean, you've done a lot of improv, so you just go with it anyways. But what's happened in the show? Have you had the the sprinklers come on, or
exactly. We did have a sprinklers come on in a show. That was I was thinking when you said like of improv, and when the show can't actually go on, was a performance at a high school where the sprinkler system was above the stage, and it was rigged so that when the sprinkler system went off, the sky levers opened up so that it was a ventilation system.
Oh, okay.
So it actually opened up to the sky, and it was raining. So then it became rain down on the stage. Actually, no, the sprinkler didn't go off. What happened was a fog machine set off that ventilation system, and then it started raining on stage.
Wait.
And it was a moment when the show could not go on as it was, because then they had to evacuate the buildings for the
no Gene Kelly improvisation there.
No. We were told that the whole audience needed to go out in the parking lot while the fire department came.
Well, wasn't it raining in the parking lot?
It was indeed.
Wow, jeez. And I think Sally gave me a note about something that might have been some sort of stage fail, maybe not during the show, but something about costumes getting locked in a closet.
She was reminding me of that. Yeah. I don't have all of the details.
No.
But apparently there was a quick costume change, and that all of the costumes got locked into that closet.
Oh, no. Huh.
And she says that then her high school actors went out scantily clad.
Yeah, that could be
unforgettable.
Questionable there. So before we get to the last questions, she mentions that you were the fight director for Oompa's Man of La Mancha.
Oh, that's right. Yes, which she directed.
Well, which, I mean, we talk about different parts of our cast and crew here with the shows, but we haven't had a fight director yet.
I'm so honored to be here representing fight directors.
So interesting to hear a little bit about fight direction.
Well, I might need a fight director this fall, so now I know where to find one.
There you go.
That's cool.
Yeah, so it was really just helping the actors work really physically, and there were big, throws across tables and lots of slaps and things. Huh. So interestingly, there's a lot of crossover with physical comedy and some stage combat stuff. So that's what we were working on.
Interesting. That was the first time I've heard about fight direction. I guess it's kind of choreography. It can be.
It's choreography and helping people communicate, stay connected with each other, with themselves first, and then with each other, and helping people really have a clear physical, both intentions and reactions.
Yeah.
Huh.
I bet that'd be fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know if I would be any good at it, but it sounds like something I would like to do.
Oh my gosh, it'd be amazing. I have no doubt.
Well, I guess I might need to pick your brain after this, because my wife and I are directing Jekyll and Hyde for Oompa in the fall.
Awesome.
And we're planning on really going down the physical route. Like everything is going to be very, very predetermined movement. And so I have to pick your brain on maybe someone to get in touch with.
All right, let's do it.
Cool.
I'm excited.
Cool. So before we finish off, I want to hear about what do you got coming up? What are you doing now?
Roll out the red carpet for you. Let us know what you're doing.
What's in the immediate future for Mandy?
Well, as I mentioned, I'm teaching yoga, and I've got a new online series coming up in February and March, which will be an 8-week series. That's really yoga to support creativity. So, first of all, working on supporting, calming, quieting the mind, and then empowering the body and helping liberate physical energy, and doing that in service to a more full expression of oneself, whatever that means for somebody. So that's going to be an online yoga series coming up. And then I'm working on putting together a new retreat to Mexico, which is a week-long retreat for women to nurture and liberate what makes you feel wildly alive.
Whoa.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Sorry,
you had me at
you can't go
everything except the
that woman.
that
I
woman
know.
part, and I was like, oh, never mind.
Well, there definitely will be one for all gender expressions. Additionally in the future, because there's been a lot of guys that are really interested in it as well. So yeah, that's going to be coming up with details emerging soon, but I think in August.
Ooh.
To swim with the whale sharks.
Whale sharks.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
They're the largest fish.
Do you need like a chaperone or something?
40 feet. Not for this one.
You want to jump in with the whale sharks?
I'm trying to think.
We need
somebody
some of
carry
that.
bags.
I'll keep you in mind. Thank you,
okay.
Kurt.
I'm just anything you need done.
He is good at that stuff. So you could ask him.
But both of this, like the retreat and really the yoga, I feel like is a further exploration of this idea of kind of theater off the stage. How do we support the theater of our lives and put ourselves in the driver's seat of our creativity so that we can, turn up the volume on all the right stuff.
Yeah,
that's awesome.
That's cool. I've been really thinking about doing yoga.
Mm-hmm.
That might be a really cool kind of gateway.
Yeah.
So, do you do any like in person yoga or?
I teach in Yarmouth. And can do private stuff locally, but I don't have a regular. And I do a chair yoga class locally. Actually,
cool.
So if folks are interested in that, drop my bio in the show notes or something.
Yeah, absolutely. We will definitely put
website.
that. Yeah, we'll put your website in.
Which is AmandaHuotari.com, but people need to see it as a link because Huotari, talk about improvisation. There's a lot of ways to spell Huotari.
How do you spell that again?
Yeah, I asked before you got here.
I know. How do you spell it? How do you say it?
Yeah.
So I got to ask, not that I would ever think that this of you.
Yeah.
But I mean, having all of this skill and talent after all the schooling and your training, and I'm sure the other people in your world, in your community, there are others that are probably either equally or more, how I feel kind of stupid saying this, but asking this, but how do you not kind of get a good chuckle out of like what someone like myself does?
Because we're all doing the same thing.
Yeah,
for sure.
But no, I mean, I feel like I have really, with anything that I do personally right, create on stage or anything, I'm ultimately going off of something that somebody else created, right? I'm making it my own. But there have been thousands of people ahead of me that have had that role, that have done that role, that have done it. This is probably the same way I did it, even if I think I'm being original, right? I can't really put a hand on too much besides improv, right? That I've done that's original. And that's so daunting to me. That's so overwhelming to think that, everything that you have done in this space essentially is original to someone, right? In that space. It's mind blowing to me.
Yeah, but I think we're all holding space for both things to be true. Like on one hand, we're all totally inspired by one another. We're all collaborating with all of the circumstances of any given moment. So no one's creating in isolation ever. And on I just lost my train of thought, which is so true to what I'm saying. Because the other thing is that we're also all unique expressions of every given moment. So this is as creative as that.
Sure.
And I think the only thing that's different, what defines someone as an artist, is just whether or not they identify as an artist and what their commitment to that is and how much they embrace it as one of their personal values. We're all artists. We're all infinitely creative. And we all could do and create anything that we choose to invest our energy in.
The only thing that I've invested a ton of energy and created in is notebook upon notebook of bad lyrics that we wrote for songs when we were teenagers.
Oh my gosh, that's the best.
They're terrible.
Yes. We used to warm up for improv shows by doing bad improv. And I think that that's actually a methodology, because take all the pressure off of it from being good. That's what prevents anything from happening. If we gave ourselves permission to do more stuff badly, we'd get a whole lot more done.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Maybe we should crack open the notebooks, Aaron.
For some
right here. All right. We have questionable people here.
No.
What?
We have one questionable person. Questionable looking,
right.
questionable acting, questionable age, all of the above. We don't know anything about him,
It's
really.
not you. Don't worry. It's not you that we're talking about.
So we end the show just like we end all our shows with strike. Got to clean up the show. So for us, strike is we ask 5 questions of our guest. And so we have 5 questions for you.
Mm-hmm.
And our first question is, you said you don't talk, you're lousy talking about TV shows.
Yes.
Except for the Brady Bunch.
The Brady
All
Bunch.
right, first question is,
That song's for you, John.
who's the hottest Brady kid?
Oh, Greg.
Alice.
You mean, well, it wasn't Johnny Fever. Was it Johnny Fever?
Johnny Bravo.
Johnny Bravo. There it is.
But he wasn't a kid. Oh,
Yeah,
no. Johnny Bravo was right.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't know.
Great.
Bobby was a cutie.
Oh, totally. But,
I don't know.
the whole structure was that you were like told what to think. So they were like, Greg's the hot one. And I was like, okay, I got it.
Yeah.
It's Greg. Well,
Oh, man.
at least it wasn't Marsha.
But she was hot too.
Yeah.
The
And
confidence.
so was Alice.
Oh, Alice was hot.
John is an Alice guy. So
Question 2.
question 2.
Sorry, Rachel, my wife, who I love and has nothing to do with Alice.
Yeah, never mind. Who's a local community hero of yours?
Duncan Slade.
Yeah.
Duncan.
And now I'm
Yes.
thinking of all the others.
Yeah.
But Duncan was the first one to come to mind.
No, that was a good answer.
Because,
answer.
For folks that don't know Duncan, he was many things, including for many, like a generation. He was their painting teacher at the middle school here. But I met him later in his life when he had his studio next to what's now Cafe Nomad. And that was such a magical place to come into. And he would, light up to have a guest who wanted to come in and talk about anything, and he'd hand out copies of his book, Improvisation, which has become a very seminal kind of text.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Nice. Awesome. I love that. I have a Duncan Slade original in my arts room.
Oh, you do?
Yes.
We should get one for in here.
We should.
Well, they're harder to get now because
I get lucky.
Next time we go to Scott's, we should just
sneak it out. Maybe it could be had. That's question number 2.
nice.
So number 3, what are you listening to? Music, podcasts,
oh gosh,
talk radio. What is it?
Yeah, I mean, I just came to podcasts.
Yeah,
like I'm a little late to the game.
That's all right.
But yeah, I mean, I love listening to like yoga stuff, and I like started to say self-help, except like who likes to listen to self-help? I mean, it's just the discovery, exploration, mindset stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anything in particular?
I just was listening to Brene Brown interview Richard Rode, who I had not encountered, but he has the Center for Contemplation in Albuquerque. He is a Franciscan priest who I heard this podcast with him. It was a 2-part series, and then I ordered 2 of his books, and I just got one and I read it straight through, which I never do with books. But the book is called Falling Upwards, about the second half of life.
Something we like to ask, and I think you'd be a great one to ask this question to is, we're always looking for new ways to do things around here. We've got our stages. What are some new ideas you have about staging a show? What are some new things we could do, or what's something you thought of that, people haven't done before? What are we going to do?
Yeah. Change the place.
Yeah.
Change the audience. Change the way the audience experiences the space.
Yeah.
Change the time. I mean, the great thing is if you do anything, it'll awaken a whole new experience. So anything besides coming in and sitting down in the seats and watching the actors do the show is going to stir stuff up.
Yeah, I like that. Awesome. So our last question. So we talked about in season 1, what does community mean to you? And now with season 2, we're changing that a little bit and want to get people's ideas on how do we build a community? What are your thoughts on that?
That's such a beautiful question.
I feel like it's appropriate coming from you too, just for everything you've done at the Celebration Barn, building it up.
Yeah.
Yeah. It feels like it's about thoughtfully bringing people together. And then also inviting people into the question of what they want to do with community. And I think it's really changing. Like we don't have the answer to the question right now because I feel like we're kind of going through this awakening, this post-COVID or whether we're post or not, but whatever. Yeah. Like so many things are so volatile and in so much flux. And the beauty thing of that is we are inherently having to shift our expectations. And I think that's something that's really special. And we're going to come into needing and choosing community in new ways that lift us up without the same kind of assumptions that we've had. And I think the way to build community is to be engaging each other around that question.
Wow.
That's good.
Yeah.
It is unique, not to be cliche, but the idea that the fragility of what we've experienced the last couple of years could build a stronger version of what it was, right?
For sure. And that it just breaks all the expectations, all the old habits, all of the sense of have tos and always, and the ways in which we may have felt isolated but blamed it on other people for not making things more interesting for us. And now we get to reassume responsibility for our own experience and invite others to do that too.
That's great.
That is awesome.
I love that.
Well, that's our 5 questions for Strike. We've had an amazing episode. I knew this was going to be fun. I knew you were going to give us a lot of great content, and you just blew my expectations away, Mandy. I thank you for being here.
Without a doubt, there was going to be a season 2, and I was like, I'm holding out for season 2. I'm holding out.
You did it.
Well, thank you.
You manifested season 2. It was Mandy alone that manifested season 2 for us.
Her faith in us.
Yes. I think it'd be really important right now to give Scott a little bit of a, good job, Scott.
Oh, thank you.
Way to blend your community.
My communities
that you've built.
I'm building.
And I'm quoting what you said earlier. The community you've built with our community.
Yeah.
So thank you for that.
Yeah, well, and for real, thank you. And thank you for the podcast, which is a way of engaging community and especially of building it and having new conversations and inviting people around the table. So a pleasure to be a part of it. Thanks so much for having me.
Yeah. Thanks for trusting. Thanks for trusting that we would do this. Yeah. I don't know what I'm trying to say.
Cool.
Thanks
for trusting
being
us.
here and trusting us.
Yeah. Where can people find you? How can people?
AmandaHuotari.com.
Do you want to spell that out?
Huotari.
Huotari.
It's HUO. Did we spell it right there?
We did.
You did not actually.
What?
It's HOU.
No, it's not.
Oh,
it's HUO. You come first. HUOTARI.
I looked to your name like 4 times.
I know.
Yeah.
I feel terrible. We didn't spell it right.
Oh my gosh.
It doesn't matter. You're on the air. We also could have lied and said it was perfect.
Well, we fired our research team last week, so we're hurting for a new. If you want to be part of our research team, message
send your
us.
Applications to
now accepting benefactors.
And if you'd like to benefact us,
yes, be rich first, and then be a benefactor.
Yeah. why put a limit? Like if somebody wants to pay for things,
if you want to be a poor benefactor, let's do that too.
Like let's not limit people to, their abilities,
All right. If you just want to supply us with chicken nuggets, whatever.
Anything helps.
Well, I'm so excited.
Shoot for the stars.
I'm so excited to hear about what you do in the future, and thank you for being on here with us.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, thanks for coming out to listen, to see,
another great episode.
Another great episode
It's been wonderful.
Of the Backstairs Podcast.
The Backstairs Podcast.
I'm John. The Backstairs Podcast.
The Backstairs Podcast.
There it is.
This has been the Backstairs Podcast. You can stream the audio or video format of this episode anywhere that you listen to your podcasts. You can find us on Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube at The Backstairs Podcast. Send us an email at thebackstairspodcast@gmail.com. Redacted!